Welcome to Triple Threat, the podcast with Jermel President, where it's good news and good vibes all the time, baby.
When we left Portugal to come play with you in your system, Jermel, it was the best thing for Shane because you pushed him to do other things outside his box.
You can follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Jermel President and on Twitter at President Jermel. Make sure to subscribe to this podcast as I'll be bringing you a new interview every month. Hey, what's up, guys? Coming up next, we got Carl, Shake, Thomas from the Tampa area to talk about his life as a student athlete, coming out of the Tampa area to Western Kentucky, to the College of Charleston, then pursuing his professional career. Carl and I had some great times at the College of Charleston where we first met, and to this day we're best of friends and talk about a lot of things we've been through as student athletes and things now we're currently approaching as we're building our careers. So great interview. All right, let's get into it. But for guys, I'll go ahead and get right into it. This is Triple Threat, the podcast with Jermel President. Was good news, good vibes all the time, baby. We got my man, Carl, Shake, Thomas in the building. Before we get started, I got to tell a quick story. So, Shake first came on campus and we linked up. So we jumped in the car. We had to go to the teller. We had to go to the teller. So mind you, for the story, I'm just putting a little timer on it. Say, hey, drop him off the teller at 2:30. I pulled up on George Street, let him go to the Stern Center with a little Bank of America teller in the back. About 2:30, I put up on the side. About 2:55, I'm like, well, dang, where is he? So I walked around. He's like, man, this teller's acting up, little buddy. I'm like, what's going on? He said, I'm trying to get $7 out this bit. I was like, you can't get $7. You can't get no odd number out the teller. So from right then, I know it was like, listen, that's my guy right there. We hit it on ever since then, right?
Yeah, that was the struggle, man. Never had no bank account before, man. That was my first bank account. So I ain't have an idea or clue of what I was doing.
Right. Hey, but being a student athlete put us in those situations, so that helped us, force us to, to learn, right?
Absolutely.
And that's what this is all about, man. So so I want to say thank you for your time. This is my first podcast, not my first podcast, but I'm just starting this new venture, and I appreciate you guys coming on. I'm interviewing a lot of former student athletes, particularly College of Charleston. That's my alma mater. But just getting those feedback, giving the community and the families those different perspectives of student athletes. So you being from Tampa, Florida, one of our topics we'll get into is we're gonna start from the bottom to the top and talk about you coming up, the parks and the rivals. Throw some names out there, throw some parks out there, throw some times out there where, because coming from our era, that's where it started from, the parks.
Exactly.
Take us back a little bit on that.
Well, first and foremost, I want to say thanks for having me. It's a pleasure being on your podcast. You and I talk on a regular.
For sure.
We talk about a lot of, about our journey, and even now these days, I still call to get advice from you as a former athlete, just in life in general.
Sure.
Making the right moves and just learning, the whole life lesson that we've learned in the past. Going back to my story, coming up, growing up in East Tampa, known as Jackson Heights, playing at the park, Fair Oaks, Giddens Park, McFarland Park. Those are the places I started growing up, being competitive as a basketball player, as an athlete. And, the journey was tough. I mean, I never thought in a million years I'd be playing college basketball. I never knew it was another level to this journey. I was a skinny African American kid that I was just pushing for respect, you know. And growing up in our era was always about, you had like 2 or 3 different avenues. You could either be a street guy, you could be a student, you could be a student or a student athlete.
Right.
And whichever direction I went, I wanted to be the best I could be, and I wanted to be respected in whatever, you know, avenue I went.
Right.
And of course, I chose to be a student athlete. And just growing up, man, you know, growing up in an all Black African American neighborhood, going to an all Caucasian school. I've always been challenged as, you know, you guys are not playing against anybody. You know, you guys don't have any competition. And as I've gotten older and as I was getting wiser and getting stronger, you know, I always wanted to prove to my peers, to my neighborhood friends that, hey, I'm just as good as the guys that's here in the neighborhood.
Right.
Just give me a chance. And, you know, I wanted to be a guard also. So
right.
With that being said, I just, you know, kept on working. And before you know it, I was playing the same public schools that the guys that I grew up with was going to, and we was smashing them.
Mm-hmm.
And from there, it just gave me the confidence to know I'm gonna go even back further. I never forget, when I was in high school playing at the park, was a guy named Tony Mack. My high school coach used to always talk about him, about how good of a guy he was. He led the country in scoring. He ended up playing at the University of Georgia, averaging 40 points a game.
Dang.
And I was playing at the park one day, and this guy came up there, and we playing 21. Never knew who this guy was. He was a dark-skinned guy. He didn't speak. But every time he got the rebound, he going up, he just dunking the ball. And at this time, I was just developing the respect that, hey, this guy Carl could play, and everybody respected me at the park. But
Right.
This one guy came up, he's dunking everything. He's shooting threes. And I'm like, if this guy is a no-name, then I don't know if I'm gonna be able to play college basketball. I went back to my high school the next day, and I told my coach, I said, Coach, I seen this guy with some red Georgia shorts. And he was about 6'7", and he was dunking everything, it was like man among boys. And I was playing with some grown men.
Right.
And he said, oh, don't worry, Slim, that's probably Tony Mack. And from there on, I know, okay, if this guy is Tony Mack, and I know he was doing this to everybody, I'm not too far behind, because you know, this is just an exceptional guy that I shouldn't have to worry about.
Right.
So my coach told me that this guy was phenomenal.
Right.
Unfortunately, with grades and, you know, different legal troubles, I think he got a shot in the NBA, but because of, you know, those were different times. If your attitude wasn't good and you had legal troubles, that'll deter you from actually excelling in the NBA. But he was a very good guy. But that was one of the guys I grew up against, man, and that really challenged me and let me know, okay, I may have a chance to play college basketball.
And so the when you talked about, you know, those challenges with those guys coming up in your high school career, you went to Tampa Prep.
I went to Tampa Prep.
The Tampa Prep, is that considered a prep school? Is that considered a public school? Give us some feedback on, because that word prep, you know, it strikes me, because in the athletic realm, that's like a big up. That's like we went to a prep school, so that must be good. So give us some feedback on your history at the prep school, why you went there versus a public school.
Well, the prep school wasn't the traditional prep school that a lot of guys go to, like yourself, like the Fort Unions. It was a academic school. It was actually known for volleyball. I was actually one of the first Black kids to go there on a scholarship to play basketball. And the reason why I went there and how I got there was I was in public school my whole life, and they were trying to bring more minorities into the school. And my mom knew a lady that worked in the academic department, in the financial department. And I think they might have went to church together, and she was trying to reach out to my mom, telling her, hey, you should try to get your kid to go there because we're trying to bring more minorities. So of course my mom, she's into education, and she has her degrees and everything. And she wanted to kind of get me out the realm of the environment that I was in, give me a different look, put me in a different direction. And even though she was looking to put me in a different direction, I was pissed because all I knew was my neighborhood. And my mom filled out some paperwork. I had a right to do a test or an essay, and they had accepted me. But they accepted me to be going there as an academic, and I was on financial aid. I think we may have been paying, just to give you some small number, like $100 a month on financial aid.
Right.
To us at that time, that was a lot. That was a big bill for my mom to even afford. So by me going there for the first year, you know, I picked up basketball because prior to that, football was actually my first love. And when I went there, I probably complained every day when I got home, like, Mom, this some bull. I should, you know, why you took me out of school. But in the meantime, that was just me as a young guy wanting to go to school for fun because that was the academic school. And so I picked up basketball, played JV, but while I was playing JV, I grew like 5'7" to like 6'2" within a year. And my high school coach saw the potential in me, and he was like, hey, you know, he had me playing AU. He sponsored me a lot for a lot of different things like shoes and put me in these different things. And so he was invested. So now with my mom and I saying, well, we're going to pull him out and take him back at the public school because this $100 is a little too high for us.
Right.
He came back with an opportunity and a proposition. Hey, we have a scholarship for your son. So when he told my mom that, my mom was happy with a bag of, and I was pissed.
Right.
Like, oh, golly, I was just getting ready to go to school with my guys from the neighborhood to have fun. And my mom was like, hey, I don't care how much fun you want to have. This is for your future. So looking back in hindsight, that was the best decision my mom made for me because of the fact that, you know, it kind of prepared me to get focusing on getting to school and sticking with this basketball thing that I had just started to endure and love.
But check what sports does all the time. You know what I mean? Because yeah, they wanted to get more minority in the school, but you had twofold. You could have, you were athletic and they needed that. So because of sports affiliation, you were able to get a scholarship, which enhanced. Right. We talk about, you know, your career and how those seeds that you planted, your mom planted, has been beneficial to now. But we'll get into that. So when the Tampa Prep, you started playing. Take us to, you know, your senior year when the recruitment wars and everything happened. Tell us who was recruiting you. A little bit of what happened, what didn't happen, because you end up at Western Kentucky and then to the best place in the world that you ever could end up at the College of Charleston. So right. Take us back at high school where, you know, your recruiting wars that season, and then how you end up at Western Kentucky.
In this timeout session, we got Joe Chile.
We just kind of had this conversation about where it started back in middle school, getting cut and stuff. And in seventh grade is when I kind of decided, you know what I'm saying, I wanted to play professionally, right? And so I felt that, man, I really worked my whole life for this opportunity. And you get to the point, like I get to the NBA, right? And you kind of see like how it works, like the politics that are involved, you know what I'm saying? Like you see some people that might not necessarily be as devoted to basketball, like and put the amount of time in that you did, and that's a weird dynamic to be in, because like I said in the lyric, man, like I worked my whole life for it, right? And so just navigating that, man, it was I'm still navigating it to this day, right? Like I'm praying for another opportunity and I'm working as hard as I can, and it's not really about like getting the opportunity, it's about how you approach getting the opportunity. You know what I'm saying? It's about like the work you put in. It's not the destination, it's like the journey.
Now let's get back to the interview.
Okay, well, my senior year is when I started getting a lot of mid-major offers, you know, of interest. And as I can remember, again, I want to always go to the best school that I can go, or the best place with the best opportunity. So if I'm getting recruited by the ACC schools, I want to go to the top ACC schools. At the time, of course, College of Charleston. Western Kentucky was top in their division. I wasn't getting recruited from Western Kentucky first. It was I was getting recruited by all the TAC schools initially, Jacksonville and Charleston, a couple Midwest schools that was mid-major, but they was like in the middle of their conference. And so Jacksonville recruited me and Charleston recruited me. So initially I visited, and also was Murray State. I went on a visit to Murray State, went to a visit the College of Charleston, and also Jacksonville. I initially picked Jacksonville to go to.
All right.
Okay. Yeah, I was saying I was considering going to Jacksonville initially. I was considering going to Charleston initially. Jacksonville was one of the schools I visited, but because the head coach took a job at Western Kentucky, I decided to withdraw the offer from Charleston to go to Western Kentucky because they were also top in their division and they would consider a better conference than the TAC.
Right.
So I chose Western Kentucky, and that was the reason why I chose them because again I was always shooting for the best. It wasn't about if I was getting recruited by a top major school, I wanted to go to the best and challenge myself as an athlete to play at the top level.
And that's why, that's why this podcast is so important because when we talk to, student athletes, there's so many variations of stories, the reason where people end up certain places. So, and that's what I tell my families and athletes right now. It's almost like, it's like a bag of rice, right? A $5 bag of rice is not going to sell at Piggly Wiggly. A $1.99 bag of rice is going to sell at Piggly Wiggly. A $5 bag of rice will sell at Whole Foods or Harris Teeter. So I think athletes need to put themselves in situations where, and we all did this before, and that we all guilty of this, is looking for the best team to go for. Because, if I go to the best team, I'm getting the best looks, I'm getting the best wins. But is necessarily a good fit for me because that school is the best school? No. And that's what athletes need to be looking at towards what's my strength in playing? Am I a shooting guard? Am I assist? Do I rebound? So programs that fit my model, fit my makeup, those are schools I need to be interested in because I'm gonna get the best bang for my buck in that system. So, and that's the reason why. And there was a fault that your coach left and caused you to redirect. But moving forward, I think athletes that listen to this podcast need to make sure that their value, their bag of rice, their packages is distributed to the right store, to the right school per se.
Well, I mean, I could piggyback off of that. I mean, because of my competitive nature, maybe Charleston was probably the best fit for me to go to in the first place. But I must say that going to Western Kentucky actually helped me. Well, going to College of Charleston developed me a lot. Going to Western Kentucky gave me another look at playing at a different
But yeah, go ahead. You say you went to College of Charleston. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying. I mean, if I had to do it all over again, I would go the same direction. I learned a lot at Western, but I mean, I think going to Charleston actually it's just the coaching. I mean, the Coach Cress in that system we were in, man. That's where I learned the game of basketball tremendously.
Hey, Carl, push it off so I can see your eyes.
But I would have never knew what was on the other side if I didn't go the direction I went initially.
Push your monitor up so I can see your eyes. I can see yeah, there you go. Okay. Yeah, and that segue into my next topic is, Coach Cress, man, because I remember, the discipline of that guy, man, the strategic approach he took to the game, from Earl Grant I mean, not Earl Grant, Earl Brown at Burke High School. I learned toughness. You know what I mean? I learned that dog attitude. From Coach Fletcher Arrett at Folk Union, I learned the discipline of the game. I learned how to apply discipline to the game, how to read. But the X's and O's, I learned from Coach Kress, and the timing. Like, I was just talking to Big Baby about that. Like, we had to be places at 7:12. You know what I mean? And he has so much talent that he had to find every little thing to discredit you, because the talent we had was just coming out the door. But I never forget your first time, you know, in practice where, you know, here you say you grew. I didn't know you grew that much, but here you're I never seen a 6'7" guard put it on the floor like how you did, right? And that's all you knew. That was your thing. But in Crest system, the most effective ball moved faster than the person. So the pass and pick and read and react is something that I didn't have. I had to adjust. But man, he got on you a lot, because soon you put the ball on the floor, you blow the whistle. Nope, that's not it. And to the point where you were really, really frustrated.
Very.
So take us to the back, where coming on campus, being frustrated, then having one of the biggest game of the College of Charleston career in North Carolina, came out and you busted with 20 points. I mean, it feel like that all that time, all that frustration, all the time where you could, because you had it rough, where you had surgery, you had, you know, like, I mean, you was nipping at the bud every time something happened. But North Carolina was your kind of your breakout time. Talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely frustrating, because again, like I said, I went to Western Kentucky where it was we did more of a ball weave offense, where you had to you put the ball on the floor to create shots for not yourself but for others, and then you come into a system where there's no ball dribbling, it's all ball movement. It was definitely a shocking experience to me, and I didn't understand why I couldn't really show what I can do. But as I, you know, just watching you guys in practice every day and competing with you guys every day, I had to adjust and learn. And I didn't grasp it till the end. Like, wow, this is really like, even now when I watch basketball, if I see a team like Houston with James Harden, who's one of the top players in the NBA, and I see him dribble the ball more than 2 or 3 times, I'm like, I don't like that brand of basketball. But yeah, I had to learn, man. It was interesting, because it was definitely challenging, but it was actually effective playing that way. And it's so funny, because when I went to the next level, and I had my little stint in the NBA, and I started playing, and I played in the minor leagues, which is called the CBA at the time. Now it's called the NBDL. All the coaches was very impressed with my brand of basketball, my IQ, because that's one of the things that Coach Kress taught, was just not even, he just taught you how to play, and, you know, the moves and the things that you did, he gave you a reason why you did those things, you know. And I credit him a lot, because it showed. I had a lot of guys at the next level that was actually commending me on my brand of basketball, and these household name guys, like, damn, you didn't get drafted? I'm like, no, because you know, numbers speak also. So it might have affected me from getting drafted, but I got to respect it from a lot of top guys that love the way I played, because I didn't need the basketball to score. You know, I was always in position to score because of what Coach Kress implemented in my brand of basketball. But because I knew how to handle the ball, if I needed to put the ball on the floor, I could. But I never needed to really put the ball on the floor, because, again, if you just know how to play and know how to move without the basketball, you will always be in position to, you know, to be productive.
I call it the multitask thinking, because in that system, in his brand of basketball, when we coming out, we just rely on athleticism, you know what I'm saying, speed and grit. Well, if you got a mental capacity to go with all that, bro, you are effective. And what he did was, all those strengths that I had, now I'm adding the mental capacity to the game, where I'm reading. As 10 people on the court at one time, and I'm reading what all other 9 people are doing in a matter of a split second, right? And the cohesiveness of that, understanding that, allows you to be more effective in to not put it on the floor. When you put the ball on the floor, everybody's watching you, nothing's really happening. But you would say, damn, Duke, like, how you always get open? Because I figured the game out. If I set a pick for you, guess what's going to happen? That brought all attention to you, and what you got to do? I'm going to be wide open. So that's what I learned the game.
And you tell me that after we got out of college. I'm like, what? We did that. Remember we did a shot chart? And I'm like, how the hell you have 100 shots more than everybody on the team when you didn't have no players call for you? I was second. I think I was second. I'm like, how the hell did you get 100 more shots? Oh, well, I learned that if I set the pick, I get more shots. I said, why you tell me that now? It makes no sense.
Hey, what's up, guys? Check this out. If you're coming into the Charleston area, or maybe leaving out the Charleston area, and you want to avoid long lines and be greeted by friendly, sweet people, go check out Mark over at Avis and Budget Car Rental at 7685 Northwoods Boulevard. When you go see Mark and you mention Triple Threat Podcast, you receive 30% discount on your rental. They also offer compact to large SUVs and vans to rent with quick, easy transaction. And check this out, and limited mileage on most rentals. So give Mark a call at 843-572-3190. Don't forget to mention Triple Threat Podcast.
Me and Big Dad just talked about that because Jacksonville, all the players ran for high percentage players and shots. And like you said, and for you to know that, for you to say that, everybody known Coach Crest never gave me no plays. And you know what? I applied that to my life. Like, no one ever gave me that, and I realized no one never give me shit. And that's cool. I got to go get it. And I'm cool with that. So when we call our plays, I would buck the system.
Right.
I do now. I have to buck the system to get what I want. So defense, and I know another thing too is that I knew what he liked. He liked a hard-nosed defender.
Right.
So as a small guard, point guard, I didn't have the vision Anthony Johnson and Shane did, but I was in that size position. So I'm like, you know what? They don't like to defend. They're not hard-nosed like that. So I'll be the filler in. I'll be the hard-nosed. I'll stick my nose in there, which gave me more time on the floor. Because I was a horrible point guard. I cannot distribute. I can pass from here from me to you, and I'm cool with that. But I can shoot from Florida to New York all day.
All day. All day. You gonna shoot that. You gonna shoot that too.
But yeah, man. And
he gets the most out of you, man. He's like I said, one thing he did, like I said, it wasn't for me. I was always trying to be that smooth guy, that smooth basketball player. And one of the things that he taught me that I had to learn was get that smoothness out of your game. Just play hard. So he's gonna get the most out of you, man. And that's one of the things that I appreciate. Because even at Western Kentucky, I left some points on the table. I left some, you know, I have so much potential. And one thing Coach Crest's gonna do, he's gonna hold you accountable, and he's gonna take that whatever bit of talent you have, he's gonna get all of that out of you.
Everything. We talked about full practice. Here we play in the game on Saturday morning, or we might play at a Friday night. Thursday evening or Friday evening at practice, we walk into that building, in that video room. There's 5 positions on the board. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We got your initials coming all the way down. If you see your initials in that first column, you know you start the next game. If you see your initials in that first column, somebody head coming off in practice.
Exactly.
Somebody head coming off in practice. You know, by tomorrow, so that means that I got another practice to gain that spot. And what he did was, bro already know who was starting. He already knew who his lineup was. But he wanted that last practice for the game to be super hard so we won't let up. And I want to tell you something too, bro. I never forget, you had that red and yellow duffel West Kentucky bag with your ball can fit in there. Like, I never worked. All my talent came off a straight God-given. I never had a work ethic until latter part of my game. But I always see you and say, I always see y'all guys like going to the gym. I'm like, man, I'm on the phone. But you guys stayed in the gym, man.
But see, one of the things that I commended with you, we might have worked on our skill, and you might have had, natural talent, but your mentals were so crazy that you had a mind of what an NBA player had. Most NBA players have, because I played with guys that played at the next level. And I think because you was always, playing with your back against the wall because of your size, you had to have that type of mentality, man. And like I said, I wish I would have had that mentality in college, because the skies would have been the limit. Naturally, I was always competitive. Said was like my nemesis. If I'm gonna be on a team with someone, I'm gonna either be one of the stars, or I'm gonna share the stardom. I'm not a selfish guy, and you have to be selfish to a certain extent at the next level. And I think I had it. Like I said, it was times and nights that Seth would call me and say, "Hey, let's go train. You gonna train tonight?" I would tell him no, because I knew I was going in the gym. But I gotta call you tomorrow, Seth. I'm not gonna train with you. What you think? What you think this is? You feel me? But that was my mental edge. I always wanted to make sure I'm just as good, if not better, than the guy that's in my position. But with you had a mentality that you wasn't cool with nobody, but you had to keep that edge, and a lot of guys respected you on the team. So therefore, those shots that you took that you're supposed to pass, they were like, "Damn, dude, pass the ball." We couldn't say nothing because again, a lot of guys feared you because you didn't say much, you didn't play a lot, they didn't joke with you. So it was like, "Hey, you gonna either take this, you gonna either accept this shot, or I'm on your head." You feel me? So I think by establishing who you are and your mature demeanor helped you to excel the way you did. Because I mean, a guy with your size, you wasn't supposed to out spot Danny Johnson. You wasn't supposed to outplay those other guys that you did, man. But again, you had just a tenacity mentality that you had the grit physically, but your mentality was at another level that most guys don't have at that age. I got that more so now, but you didn't play with nobody, man. I think the only guy you played with was me.
Yeah.
But we play the same position either, so you really use that as a negative.
And I tell Big Dad that too. Like it wasn't a hate thing, but I knew if I'm friends with the big guy, y'all got to rebound. You know what I'm saying? You can't bring it up. You know what I'm saying? So you're gonna, like, it's almost, you're going to find dude. Like, you see me, oh, that's my guy. You're going to give me the ball, right? Yeah. So with Shane, same thing what you said was said. With Shane, we coming down George Street, never forget it. Shane walking down the street, coming from the gym. I'm going towards the gym. He's walking on the same side of the street. I see him. I walk across the street because I don't want to walk by you and tell you hi. I don't want, because then if I make you feel comfortable, that can give you an edge towards me. But if I make you feel uncomfortable, instead of worrying about practice the next day, you worrying about, why this dude ain't saying nothing to me? That's all I needed. Yeah. Shane and I are the best friends. You know what I'm saying? Like, we cool as I don't know what, but in college, because he's played my position, I couldn't, because I know, like I said, about the parentheses, if a ball rolls on the floor and you and I go in and get it, if I'm boys with you, and it's 50-50. But if I don't rock with you like that, heads off. Heads off. I got to get that ball, because when they watch that tape and they see I came up with that possession, guess who's getting in that parentheses? Yeah. And at the end of the day, the more time you get on the floor, the more time you get seen, we'll know the game. So, yeah, it was a domino effect approach, but I had to make that work. You know what I mean? But you had to have that mentality. I never forget, God bless the dead, Jeff Bolton. I never forget, he came in the house one day. He's like, "Hey, Shake." He said, "Man, I don't think Jermel liked me, man." I said, "Why you say that?" He said, "Man, I came in the house and he pretty much just looked me off." I said, "Man, that's a different dude, man." You know what I'm saying? But again, y'all play the same position. And I didn't get it till after college that, I just wish that I would have established that mentality to a T, man. And just not just for a Cedric Weber, but for everybody, you know what I'm saying? Just for the majority. Because it was sometimes, defensively, I know even I pride myself in defense as well. When we played teams, if I knew we was going up against a good team, I always tighten up. But you have to have that mentality throughout your whole course of your career. Even going back and referring back to, Michael Jordan, to The Last Dance, man, as Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
his mentality was similar to yours, if not times 10, you know. And that's what made him so successful, because it's hard to sustain. Sports is pretty much 50% skill, if not less. The majority of it is mental, man. And for you to sustain a productive career for a long time, you have to have a different mentality than the average guy, man. That's why some guys make it, some guys don't. That, and also, of course, with, you know, skills and talent. But when you playing at a certain level, man, you have to have a sense of like selfishness. Like, you have to be mad or find that inner whatever you have inside of you, because everybody has that same type of mentality to a certain level.
And like Shaq said he made up stories for David Robinson just so he can go hard at him.
Yeah.
You know? And that kind of segue again into our next topic, which is you know, your playing career. You know, after college, you know, give us some feedback, because I know you had a stint with San Antonio. You know, we all know Tim Duncan is your cousin.
There you go.
Tim Duncan is your big cousin. Give us some feedback on San Antonio, the traveling experience, the overseas, the countries and teams you played for. Give us a little feedback, and also that throw a little bit of your interaction with your agent. You know what I mean? Your representation, how you deal with your agency, someone representing you and making those things happen.
Well, again, when I left Charleston, man, it was kind of like everything happened so quick. I was invited to a pre-draft camp down in Houston. It was one of the first year they had the pre-draft camp. And again, I wasn't even thinking about, like, after College of Charleston, my last game, we lost to Tulsa. I was still so, you know, kind of heartbroken about that I didn't even think it was another level that I can actually go to. At this time, I was trying to figure this stuff out. What's my next move? I got an offer to go play at a pre-draft camp, and also got an offer to go play in the what was the USBL down in I want to say Miami.
Right.
And I had the pre-draft camp and the USBL invitation was all around the same time. I had got drafted. The guy called me. He said, "Hey, we're gonna draft you early, but we're not sure if you're gonna be around." So I didn't understand what he was talking about. He was like, "But we want to make sure we solidify a spot for you." So at that same time, I got invited to this pre-draft camp, and so I had already told this guy at the pre-draft, at the USBL, that I was going to be a little late. So the owner told me it's okay. So they drafted me late because they wasn't sure if I was still coming or not. They didn't want to waste a pick.
Right.
Just bringing me in like second pick, third pick if I'm not going to be there. So they picked me late round. I got to the team and I told the head coach, "Hey, I'm gonna be here for a couple of days, but I have to leave to go to this pre-draft camp." And he said something slick to me, like pretty much like, "Why are you telling me that? It's not a guarantee you on the team." I'm like, "Whoa, hold up. That's not what I thought. I thought I was on the team according to how the owner told me that we're gonna pick you early."
In this timeout session, we got Derek Coles.
But I think it's going to be an issue because you're going to have, like I said, going back to the dopamine, you're going to have some people that's going to be, monetized for playing their sport, versus others is going to monetize from just being very creative with content on social media. And it's going to mess the locker room up, You could be the guy, Jay. You could be the guy getting tons of buckets, and you get a $300 deal. But here I am, don't play very well, but I'm funny. And I'm getting, tons of followers and retweets. And it's like you gonna look at me like I suck on the court, like I'm a bench player, But you getting $300, a couple of $300 endorsement deals. But here I got him getting Old Spice and saying, "Man, retweet us, man. I'm gonna give you $1,000 for every time you retweet or every time you post them up, So then you talk about just the dynamics in the locker room. It's going to change because you will have the jealousy, you will have the envy, you will have people very upset. Even within sports, within the athletic department, right? You will have, the gender equity, which people are complaining about a lot. Just female sports compared to the male sport. When you talk about the football and the basketballs compared to a men's soccer team.
Now let's get back to the interview.
So I'm like, okay, well, since he's been a butthole, let me go ahead and when it's time for me to go to this pre-draft camp, I'm gonna go to this pre-draft camp in Houston. They were sending me out to Houston. So I left the team or the camp and went down to the I was a day late. I get down there, I'm playing with one of the infamous point guards in college, Kareem Reed. And again, I'm not doing nothing different than what I was doing at College of Charleston. I'm playing without the ball. I'm in my spots. I'm playing with a pretty good damn point guard that know how to find me, and I'm finishing. So by the time mid pre-draft camp, I'm the person to watch. It's all Omar Sneed, it's Rashid Brokenbro, all these big time guys that play these big time college, but everybody's talking about Carl Thomas.
Right.
And all I'm doing is implementing what Coach Crest taught me, which is just knowing how to play basketball, finding my spots, limited dribbles, one dribble pull up, fade, slash, and backdoor, and I got Kareem Reed passing me the ball. Nevertheless, it's the last day of camp. I think we won the whole thing, and they calling out awards. MVP goes to Carl Thomas. I'm like, whoa. So I'm like, okay. But at this time, it was a guy named Walker D. Russell. He's the top agent for the Knicks now. He was the top agent for Toronto Raptors. And he had asked me before I even got to the camp, because we was in the same limousine, hey, what school you played at? I said, I played at the College of Charleston. He's like, yeah, I heard of you guys. You guys had about 4 guys that was pretty damn good. Which one was you? I said, I was one of the 4 guys. He said, well, I'll see about that. He said, what your game remind me of? I said, I'm a big guard. He said, you can put the ball on the floor? I said, yeah, we'll see. By the end of the camp, he was telling me already that all these teams are watching me. They're interested. I got the MVP. Wow. I was excited. A lot of guys were saying, well, how the hell did he win the MVP and he missed a day of camp? But everybody was like, shit, while he was there, he did his thing. So I got an invite to Houston Rockets. At that time, I thought the Rockets were going to pick me up because they were very highly interested. Milwaukee brought me in to the summer league. I was playing with God bless the dead RIP with Tractor Trailer and Ray for Austin. A lot of good guys played well there too. But that experience, man, was just phenomenal. I was doing a lot of things that I didn't even think that these guys we were just as good as those guys, man. It wasn't a big drop off at all. And I think I had more IQ than those guys had. They had a lot of those guys I played with were just so skilled, man. You had guys 6'8", 6'9" that could jump out the gym, probably run a 4.2, 4.3. And I think that was the difference at that level, that you had guys that were so talented, but my IQ on how to score, you can put me anywhere on anybody's team. I'm going to get 10 to 15 points just being out there without no plays called for me. And having my stint in the NBA, I just thought that I was playing with San Antonio. San Antonio picked me up, and I just thought that I was in a good situation. Sean Elliott was hurt. He had this little kidney issue.
Remember that.
And the fact that me and Tim was close, and we was from the same territory, which is the U.S. Virgin Islands of St. Croix. I just thought that they was going to really keep me around longer than they did. I think because of the salary cap issue, they had to let me go. I ended up playing in the CBA, played really well there too. I played with a guy by the name of Earl Boykins, Charles Smith, and Ansu Cisse. And it was so crazy because I had a pretty good CBA career as well. And San Antonio brought me back. And when they brought me back, I had an offer in the Philippines for for a good amount of money. And I took that route, go overseas for that amount of money, because I just felt like I wanted to put more money in my pocket as opposed to following the process. Now, you never know which direction you're going to go. Maybe San Antonio would have signed me to a full 4-year deal. Who knows? But I was chasing the funds and the money. And ever since then, I just, took my career overseas. And in the meantime of me doing that, I got a very good opportunity when I played in the CBA to go play in Japan for a very, very good team. And I majority of my career was in Japan. I won 2 championships over there. And just the lifestyle, the love that you get overseas was just as good as playing in the States. So Japan was it was my main country I played in. I played in a lot of subsidiary countries such as Argentina, Venezuela, Dominican Republic, Mexico. But the experience playing overseas, it's discipline there too. You know, the whole time I was over there, I was thinking about just my family. I wanted to provide for my family, and so, you know, a lot of guys can't take that. They can't grasp that type of lifestyle because you have to learn a different language. The culture is different. You know, eating the food in those different cultures. You have nobody to really talk to. You have one other American. It depends on your teammates with the locals if you want to become cool and close with them. But sometimes, you know, they're a little standoffish. All you have is yourself and just, you know, your mindset. And
it's a big sacrifice.
It's a very big sacrifice.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I commend, you know, athletes that go that long, that played overseas for 20, 30 years. Some end up even buying a home, getting married, living over there, and change their lives. So the sport of basketball, any sport, can really take you to the next level. So talking about your playing career and overseas and playing, go right into the, you know, after you finished playing, what was your mindset? Because I know you had a couple of business ventures, things that you wanted to do. And I'll take you back a little bit with my story. My career was capped a little bit just because of I didn't have this. You know, I didn't have a left hand because I wasn't skilled. No one told me I needed, at my size, and to be a point guard, to be able to have a left hand. So that was one of the things that stunted my career. But the benefits from that is that when you, Danny, said, when you guys went and started playing, started traveling, well, I started a business. So the benefits from that was now I'm 20 years in my business and I'm doing well. I still regret the times I didn't get a chance to play and have the experiences, but at the end of the day, we all was chasing, you know, the same thing. That's for as providing and being able to, you know, provide for the family. Talk about the business adventures and things that you experienced once you got out of, you know, once the horn stopped blowing.
Oh, yeah, good question, man. I mean, because I played ball, I had a little capital. I actually went back to school and got my degree in 2012 in business administration.
That was one of the things I'm going to talk about, but I'm glad you mentioned that. Go
ahead. So, I mean, when I finished basketball, I didn't know what I was going to do. I was kind of stuck. One thing I did promise my grandmother and my mom was that, because when I got injured during my basketball years, my mom would tell me, once you go finish school, and with basketball, you can't just leave that window open so long and then try to come back. So I never thought about going back to school until I was completely done with basketball. And so as soon as I was done, I went back. I think I even called you. I called you, told you I was going back to school. And I think I had did some stuff. Well, anyway, I went back to school, got my degree. And when I got done, you know, I was so used to being on a set schedule that I didn't know which direction I was going. I'm lost. So all I knew was basketball. So, of course, one of my homeboys, they told me, you know, I got some kids that I want you to train. So I did that for a few months, got into the pharmacy business as a sales associate, selling compound medication. And just by having that competitive athletic drive, I was one of the top sellers in the company. I did really well. So with the capital that I had, again, I didn't know what to do with it, but I was seeking for mentorship. I was seeking for what I need to do with the money that I had, because I wanted to make sure I keep residual income. And, you know, and one of the things that I've learned and that I've always done, I've always relied on other people. You know, I've always relied on, okay, if I have $100 or if I have $10,000, what can I do with it? Well, let me call this guy. Hey, what you got going on? If you tell me we could sell pigs and make $200,000, I'm just putting my money up. And a lot of times the business ventures sound good, but when it's all said and done, I come back, I don't have anything. And I'm like, you know, here I go again, just putting a lot of trust in other people and not doing my own due diligence, not doing my research. So I started reading, you know, and at that time I met a guy through my financial advisor. I wanted to start a group home because of one of my other colleagues who played football. That's what he was doing, and he was very successful. And he said it's a very lucrative business. So I said, let me go ahead and jump into that. Here I go again, hearing about the money, want to jump into some, no research, and here I am, trusting in somebody else. So my financial advisor put me in contact with this guy. This guy's a very shrewd, very sharp guy, business guy, but he had an ulterior motive. I ended up going in business with him. I bought a plaza here in Tampa, Florida, 30% ownership. And also we was getting ready to go into a group home together. He was bringing the experience. He had about 5 other group homes that he owned. With me, he was bringing the experience. I was bringing the property. We sat on the property for about a year. I decided to go ahead and say, you know what, since he's dragging his feet, let me go ahead and start the process on my own. In the meantime, while I was waiting around, I wanted to kind of make myself just as sharp as this guy. Again, trying to be competitive, never want to be the weak link. So I started doing a lot of reading. So in the meantime, while I was reading, I decided to get my real estate license. So I got my real estate license, learned a little bit about the real estate game. And I started the business on my own with the group home. With the group home, it's a lot of work. That's not the type of work I really want to do. I want to be more of an investor. So I didn't renew my license. So I still have the home. I rent that home out to another group home provider. I have a plaza here in Tampa, and I have a house in the Virgin Islands that I rent out to Section 8. That's the type of work I want to get into. I want to just be more versatile. I want to know how to, crunch numbers which it could benefit me in the long run. So right now, what I have going on, I have a group home that I rent out. I have a plaza, and I have a house that I rent out to Section 8. I want to duplicate the same process and keep the train running.
But we all learn from our mistakes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think what's great about being a student athlete is because we forget things. Like we have a bad game, the next game is coming. We got to get up and make it happen. All right. So that small window of remembering and solving our own mistakes, we don't do that as athletes. We find a way and we make it happen. So some of the lessons that you learn from sports and that verse and the competitiveness goes right into the application in your business ventures, and that's the message. I'm trying to get just the corporate America to understand about student athletes. Like we would be so effective in a work environment because of the energy we bring.
Right.
He made a name for himself as a star for the College of Charleston basketball teams in the mid to late 90s. And now, Jermel President is doing what he can to make sure that the Charleston area kids have a chance to succeed on the court and in life.
So I want to, give some of that back to the community as well. After college and after playing professionally, I started the Day Foundation just to be that wealth of knowledge to the kids in the community and parents as well.
College of Charleston Hall of Famer Jermel President said he saw a need for this while he was in school. So he founded the nonprofit Day Foundation. And its philosophy for success is based on what he calls his oatmeal recipe.
Let's go and finish together.
Basically teaches the game of basketball, focusing on skills, development, nutrition, and education. Not only SAT, ACT type stuff, but education for parents in how to navigate through the different levels of athletics.
In closing, I want to talk to you about 3 things that's very dear. It's called the oatmeal recipe, something that I designed. It's skill development, education, and nutrition. And no matter what sports you play, no matter if you're in corporate America, you have to be skilled in whatever you do. You have to be nourished in every day of your life, and you have to be educated in what you do. So 3 questions, and in closing, I want to talk about in skill development. What skill development have you applied to your everyday life, and where did you learn? What level of life did you learn that from? Was it high school, college, or professional?
I mean, one of the skills that I think I developed tremendously was probably networking. That's one of the key things that I think that it comes natural just playing sports. You travel a lot. I'm gonna refer back to my playing days. I never forget I was on the plane one day, and I was sitting right next to a guy, and I felt that he was trying to ask me questions, and I was in what's the first class seat. I'm sitting right next to a very established guy that I didn't even know at the time in first class. And all I can remember is that while he's talking to me, I want to get some rest because I probably was out the night before. I'm like, why does this guy keep talking to me? And I got with a guy that I actually played with at Western Kentucky. He was actually my teammate at the professional level. And I told him, man, my flight was, was uncomfortable. This guy was trying to talk my head off, and all I want to do was sleep. And he's like, CT, you can't do that. I said, why you say that? He's like, man, on these trips you go on, you have to network. You don't know who you're on the phone. You never know who you're on the plane with. You have to start thinking life after basketball, because these same type of people that you're meeting on these trips can actually be your closest friend once basketball and sports is done. And so ever since then, wherever I go now, if someone, starts to talk to me, the first thing I ask them is, what do you do? Because I want to know, what do you do? Because, it's something that I could probably provide. There's some type of service I could provide for you, or maybe you can provide for me.
Right.
And I think that's one of the things. It's about your net in life, man. It's about your network, which will equal your net worth. And once you develop that skill set and you have something to offer, you can probably find someone that can offer something to you as well.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So the next one is nutrition. How important is nutrition to you? And as athletes, as you see, we talk, 3 or 4 times a week, probably an hour and a half, 2 hours when we do talk. And sometimes I get on you because of nutrition but I do believe if you're not an athlete, the what you put in your body is very important. And I go to these AAU games and you see players walk around with McDonald's bags or sodas or Skittles, and they got a game in 30 minutes. So driving that point home of how important nutrition is very important. What's your take on that?
I mean, we're from that era where, nutrition wasn't that big of a deal back then that we didn't know. So a lot of times, we took our body for granted because we was, high level athletes. So whatever we put in our body, we just burn it off. But now, it's a different era now where you have to be considerate about what you put in your body, because your body is what helps you to perform at the best level that you can perform at. So if you're going to take care of your body, you're going to work out, you're going to lift weights, it just only makes sense to, to put the right things in your body, especially if you're thinking at a high level. Everything has to be, it depends on what level of level you're trying to get to. Everything is about discipline, you know what I mean? So if you're trying to be a high level athlete, you have to if you want to be 100% committed, those are one of the things that you have to, take in and embrace, because again, sports is only shelf life. You have about 10 to 15 year window from high school to college to pro. So if you're gonna do it at the best you can do it at, which means get your body right, and just keep your nutrition at the best that you can keep it at.
And this is a twofold, because it goes right into. I remember I gave you a little story. We're taking creatine. In college to get our muscles bigger, but we didn't know the education part of it, that you had to drink a lot of water. So a lot of people got into a little mishap with their bodies doing that creatine. How important is education when it comes to sports and athletes? How important is that education? Whether it be education about nutrition or education about your craft, how important that is that?
I mean, education is everything. Again, is first of all, if you're not educated, or if you're not educating yourself and you're not eligible to play, you can hang up sports. But also, it go hand in hand. But just educating yourself in general, man, it just gives you a sense of just enhancing your IQ. It enhances everything about your focus on what you're trying to do. So again, if you're going to be committed, man, like I said, a lot of times, a lot of guys don't get it at a young age because you're not mature enough to get it. But as you get older, man, like me now, there's a lot of steps that I missed growing up, man, that I wish I would have took a lot serious. And I'm playing catch up right now. So if I had to give an advice to any young athlete, man, if you're going to be committed, I was committed from the training stand. I was committed from the workout standpoint. But I just think that, if I would have been committed more so from the education standpoint too, when I got done with basketball, I would have knew just what I was getting myself into, because I would have already prepared my mind to know each step along the way. I would have knew that basketball would have stopped when I was 35. See, I always thought that I was going to be playing basketball till I was like 75, if you ask me. I never thought it was going to ever stop. You don't start realizing until that wheel stopped turning you're not getting those calls no more. Hey, we got a job for you over here. I never thought that. And you never want to be stuck with your hand behind your hand in the cookie jar, like, oh, what else to do? What's next?
Right.
You just start preparing yourself, man. And I think we just, as athletes, we don't know because we're not mature enough to know. But it's always good, like yourself, having a podcast like that, bringing guys like ourselves to educate the guys that's up and coming, because again, they don't know what's ahead of them.
Right.
They have this.
Right.
So.
And you just ended the podcast, bro. Because that would be my next question. What words or wisdom do you have that can go towards upcoming student athletes? And you just nailed it. So yeah, man, it's we right at that 11:57, right at that hour time. I know you got a lot going on, but I really, really appreciate the time. Man, for I really appreciate you as a friend. There's not too many.
Likewise.
People that I have that I can sit and talk to for an hour and a half, what I'm saying? And our conversations are intense. We laugh, we joke, but we're good friends. And I appreciate you.
Same here, man. Same here, bro.
For sure. Well, anything else to say, man? That's, that concludes our interview. I appreciate you.
I was going to say, again, just thanks for having me, man. It was a pleasure. It's always good chopping it up with you, man. And I like what you're doing. Keep doing bigger and better things, man.
Appreciate you, man. All right, big guy. You have a good weekend. Talk to you soon.
All right. You too.
All right. Peace.
So there it goes, guys. Another one in the books. Thanks, Carl, for coming out and giving us a story and telling us about, his trials and tribulations, the good and the bad. Those things are wonderful things to talk about. Coming up next, we got another letterman from CFC, Joe Chile, from the Florida area. And then he went to play professionally at Charlotte Hornets, and just talk about life at the college, injury, how to sustain, and his comeback from a lot of things that he had to deal with. All right, strong personality, great strong person. All right, we'll be right back.
What Jermel is doing with the Day Foundation and the approach he's taking to help develop young athletes, first of all, getting them prepared from the academic standpoint, which, as you know as well as I do, Bobby, that's the most important element, to try to get them to eat healthy, to be able to train properly, to get the proper education, and then hopefully for those who are talented enough to have a chance to move on to perhaps even get a free education by going off to college. But I love what Jermel is doing. It's a wonderful program. Hopefully more people in the community will get behind it, and some of the businesses involved as well, to help sponsor this program, because these are the kind of things that every community needs, looking out for the best interests of the youth. The future of this country is in our youth, and everything that we can do to help prepare them better for that is absolutely wonderful. And I can't express adequately enough my admiration and respect for what Jermel is doing, and hopefully he'll get a lot of help from a lot of people.
You can follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Jermel President, and on Twitter at President Jermel. Make sure to subscribe to this podcast, as I'll be bringing you a new interview every month.
York City.